Morning lads, lassies. Scott, Sega Saturn lad, back again with another video. It's going to be a bit of a gameplay footage video this time. Recently dug out my old N64 and I've recently picked up a copy of Wipeout64 and I thought it would be quite interesting to do a comparison video. And now normally Wipeout is a game associated quite heavily with the PlayStation, but between these two comparisons it's going to be between the N64 and the Saturn. Now obviously with the Saturn's, you know, you'd probably say 3-year life cycle, and then the N64's 4-year life cycle, the Saturn pretty much died. They wouldn't say died, but they were probably in competing against each other for probably a year after the N64 came out. Then obviously the Saturn just died away really. The N64 was very late, and by that time the PlayStation was already away. So there's not really many games that you can actually compare the two systems with. Obviously PlayStation and N64, or PlayStation and Saturn, very, very common titles across both consoles' libraries. But in terms of comparison, the Nintendo and Sega consoles, there are a limited number of games. The games that come to mind straight away are obviously Duke Nukem, Quake. They're the two that really stand out, and obviously this as well. Excuse me, I'm nursing a cold at the moment. What we're viewing here is the N64 version. I've just fired up the Saturn version. It's running off the other SCART lead connected to the plasma at the moment, so I haven't actually turned it over as yet, so it'll be interesting to see how it compares. I'm literally just going to do one race, one track, see how the gameplay plays, the graphics, how they compare to each other, and we'll take from there. Obviously I did play the PlayStation one back in the day, and I think that is probably the best one to go for, but it'll be interesting to see how these two compare. So anyway, we'll crack on. So obviously the intro, it looks quite nice compared to the Saturn one. From what I can remember, the N64 version, it looks quite nice and sharp. There's a few effects that are missing, but for an N64 game, it looks quite sharp actually. So we'll give it a crack and see how we get on. So yeah, we'll just go for single race. I think we'll go for the Vector. I think that's the standard track. So Hughes Bridge. Yeah, but obviously the N64 didn't have the CD capabilities, so clearly I'm not expecting the sound to be on a sort of par with the Saturn, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So we'll just go for the Firestar. That's the standard Wipeout racer.
Welcome to Fly's Bridge.
Right. So the first thing I notice is that there doesn't appear to be that many light effects on the actual ships. Now again, I might be wrong, the Saturn version may well not have that, but we'll have to wait and see. I do remember the PlayStation one was very, very well received in the graphical department because of its shading aspects. So yeah, it plays nice. It works very, very well with the N64 controller. This game really does need to benefit from an analog. You know, the D-pad doesn't work. So the speed's nice. Very impressed with this actually. For an N64 game. Nice and smooth. Pop-up's nice and blended actually. There is a bit of pop-up, but yeah, as you can see there, it sort of it loads very, very quickly. It blends in. It sort of reads the background as you go in. Very nice. Handling, again, handles the same as the Saturn and the PlayStation version. Very, very well. Explosions are okay. They're a bit, don't have the uber factor of other versions. Funny how I'm comparing these two versions, but the version I probably know the best is the PlayStation one. So that's the N64. We'll do another one. Do a different track just to compare. So do a single race. Just everything at random there. No consistency.
Welcome to Murphy on Tree.
The N64 versions certainly do look quite dark compared to the other versions. Oh, this thing's pretty rapid. This is obviously the quickest flying craft. Bloody hell. So you can get the sense of speed that this thing has. It does work very well with the N64. As you can see, my driving skills are appalling. Bashing off the barriers. Oh, Jesus. There you go, autopilot. That'll do it. And, ooh, still on track. Now I'm not too sure if this version of Wipeout for the 64 is based on the original one or 2097. You got a good impression of the explosions there. Certainly on the PlayStation one, the explosions are much more detailed than with the light effects, but the N64 doesn't seem to have that. I would assume this is probably, because it's a later release, I'd probably assume it's going to be a based on 2097. So it might be an unfair comparison, but we'll turn it over. So this is changing over to the Saturn version now. Go to SCART number 1. And already you can sort of see that the frame rate is already down. The N64 one is a lot smoother. But this is only the demo, so we'll give it a go. That's the first thing that I noticed anyway. So we get start race. Got my controllers now. Fuck. Hold on a minute, chaps. My system's just decided to crash on me. Give that a go again. So it's done by Perfect Entertainment, this poll, and I think the N64 one was actually ported over by Midway. So I noticed, even though they developed it, by that time Sony obviously bought Psygnosis out, but Psygnosis were the only team that really developed it for the PlayStation. The others were just simply ported to the other consoles by other companies. So it's obviously interesting to compare the other team's work. Right, and it's just done it again, so that's not good. So let's try that again. Here we go. Right. So we go Venom, single race, whatever. So already you can tell that the frame rate is slightly down from the N64 version. It's a bit more jerky, not as smooth. It is noticeably slower as well. But the slowness does actually benefit the game to a degree. I don't know if that was just simply the developers toning it down a bit. One thing this does have over the N64 one is the pop-up by the look of things. And it doesn't appear as though there is a great deal of pop-up compared to the N64 one. Is quite, there is quite a fair bit of it. It's certainly noticeable. It's not horrific, but certainly you can notice it more in this game. So you can notice it more in the N64 game. You can tell the music's better in this version. You can tell straight away. But you know, that's just a gimme anyway, really. You can tell with the CD quality change. Very sort of mid-90s house. Dream Space, all that sort of shite back in the day. Also, we were saying about the N64 explosions, so we'll see how we get on with the Saturn ones. If there's anything to blow up. When it's up and running, it is actually quite smooth. It's not too bad. Textures, you'd probably say the N64 has a slight edge. Just a bit more solid on the N64, but of like many N64 games, even though Wipeout is quite a sharp N64 game, which is more than can be said for a lot of games on the system, this is actually quite nicely textured and also quite much sharper than the N64 one as well. Saying about the explosions on the N64, I think the explosions on this are pretty non-existent, to be honest. There doesn't seem to be as much going on this version as the N64 one. So the rockets just sort of disintegrate into the background, whereas they actually explode on the N64 one. I think both versions really do suffer compared to the PlayStation one, to be perfectly honest. They both play quite well. both play very similar. You know, it's still Wipeout, and you know, gameplay wise, there's very little between the pair of them. But as you can see, there's no shading effects on the you know, we've just gone on the tunnel in the Saturn version, and there's no shading effects at all on the ship, and it's exactly the same colour as would come out. Whereas on the N64 it was slightly darker. So there you have it, guys. Just chuck my controller on the floor. Obviously, if I have any more comparison videos, I'll pop them up. But you know, let me know what you think. It's difficult to really gauge the difference between the consoles when you're viewing it on YouTube. I do appreciate that. But you know, there might be enough for you to get a grasp of what the differences are there. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Take it easy.